Sir Keir Starmer. He was knighted in 2014 for services to law and criminal justice, and that made me question, is he connected to royalty, and if so, how far back? Well, here is his family tree, and what I found out was that he was not the first man knighted in his family. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on Mortal Faces, I untangle family trees and do portrait recreations and talk about the brief history about them. I have lots more on my channel. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more trees and let me know in the comments who you want to see next. Here is his family tree, and these are his parents, Rodney and Josephine. Rodney was a toolmaker and Josephine was a nurse. Her father, Ronald, was a driver for Fitter Road passenger transport, and his father, Frank, was a mental nurse at the Surrey Asylum, and this would have been around 1917. His paternal side in the last 100 years consisted of his great-grandfather Gustavus enlisting in World War I as a driver, providing key provisions to the troops. Prior to the war, he was a gamekeeper, and after the war, he returned to gamekeeping. So the last 100 years, his family was a mix between working class and middle class, moving from Lincolnshire, Yorkshire, Surrey, and finally to London, where Keir was born. Now, as we zoom out further, his ancestry gets better as it ages. In the late 1700s, his family moved from Northamptonshire to Lincolnshire, where his great-grandfather Gustavus was born. But before the late 1700s, his family lived in Northamptonshire, and there they lived since the 1500s. This shows that they did not have much mobility and chose to stay within their means. In the end of the 1600s and early 1700s, there was an ancestor. His name was Thomas Checkley, and what I found about him was that he was a schoolmaster. A schoolmaster may sound like a good career today, but back then, it was an escape from poverty. For most, it was an in-between job for something better, like a rector in the church. Most were practicing clergymen, and it was supposed to be a job for a young graduate. However, some stayed in this, at best, average position their whole life. Now, since generally people married others of similar social ranking, his daughter would marry someone of similar rank, etc., etc., and so we can assume that the family married the same rank or lower rank for the next 200 years, resulting in the middle class and working class family of the 20th century Starmers. So it seems like they were educated, but never rich unless further evidence arises. The fun begins with the most recently knighted man in the family, Sir Richard Ward, born in 1540. He might have been knighted individually, as I don't see another title in his line until the 1300s. However, his grandfather married the daughter of a knight, and this would indicate that his grandfather had good social standing, for his in-laws, who were knights themselves, allowed their daughter to marry him. Go back some 200 to 300 years more in this same line. In the 1260s until 1339, we have 6 generations of knights from Yorkshire, as Sir Simon, born in 1202, was made a knight in 1260 by King Henry III. He had a son, William, who married Margaret Neville. Now, the Neville and Beauchamp families, who were her parents, would become incredibly powerful during the time of the War of the Roses in 200 years' time, but even right now in the 1200s, they were still great company. Because as we go back 200 years even more, in the year 1060, this is the generation that changes everything, and I call it the Big Divide. No longer is this family minor gentry that decreased to the middle and working classes, but is now proper nobility. And as we get further, actual royalty, and I mean kings, 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 but what I'll show you is the movement from ancient Rome to continental Europe to England. In the 1060s, we have Odo de St. James, born in Normandy, the Viscount of Nanty, born in Normandy, and the Count de Penthièvre, born in Bretagne, France, which is Brittany. From Odo de St. James in the 800s, his ancestor was Charles II, or King Charles the Bald. He was born in Frankfurt and then died in southeastern France. He was the West Francia king, king of Italy and emperor of the Carolingian Empire. From him, he can trace his ancestry to Attila the Hun, whose Mediterranean wife, Kreka, queen of the Huns, can trace her ancestry to the Roman emperors, including Mark Antony and Octavia Minor, and from her, Julius Caesar. So from ancient Rome to Attila the Hun, it brought the family to the Germanic lands, and then finally to the French lands with the family of Charles II. From France, there's Normandy, Brittany, and then England itself. Within England, you have the movement from Yorkshire to Northamptonshire, Lincolnshire, Surrey, and then London. And that's how this family moved, basically from ancient Rome. I wanted to point out one last thing before we finish this short video, and that is, back in the 1060s, before the Big Divide, if we look at the family of the Count de Penthièvre, his father was a Duke of Brittany. Also, his great-great-great-grandfather was King of Brittany in the 800s. Going back even further to the 200s, it branches off to kings of ancient Britain, like the kings of Silures, Ilias, and Wales, and from them you can connect through mythology the ancient and legendary kings of Troy and Athens around 1150 BC. But that still might be debatable. However, at the end of the day, Keir Starmer has a family where in the last 1,000 years managed to survive pretty well. They maintained access to education, which was good considering that you have many other lines of human families who just went straight into poverty and became peasants and slaves or serfs. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more family trees, I do have lots more on my channel. You can check them out. Subscribe for more videos. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments who you want to see next. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.